The sun showed no mercy over UCHE. It was midday, the cursed hour, when even the wind dared not whisper. Shadows shrank, heat simmered over the dusty village like a fever. And that was when Ozoma chose to strike. "Take this pot," she said, holding it out with a hand so cold it could have frozen fire. "You will fetch water." Now, Ada didn't move. 14 years old, small for her age, and thinner than a girl should ever be. She stood barefoot on the hard-packed earth of the compound, staring at the clay pot as if it were a death sentence. "Mama, please." The river Ozoma's hand cracked across her cheek before the words could even fully escape. "Do not call me that," she hissed. "Your mother is dead, and you useless Ratu want to die too. Then die with a pot full of water. But if you come back empty-handed, you'll sleep with the goats." Again, Ada's cheek throbbed. Her lips trembled but stayed closed. She had learned not to cry in front of Ozoma. Tears only fed her. Without another word, she took the pot, balancing it against her narrow hip, and turned toward the path that led to the river. The ground beneath her feet was blistering, but she didn't flinch. She'd flinched before, and it had earned her more pain. Behind her, Ozoma called out, "And don't be long, you hear me? You crawl back here after sunset, and I'll tap your hide until the drum makers weep." Ada didn't answer. What was the point? She walked. The path to the river was thin and winding, flanked by dry grasses that swayed like whispering tongues. Lizards scurried out of her way. Birds were silent. The only sound was her own breathing that tightened the soft slap of her bare soles against the cracked earth. Every step was heavier than the last, not because of the pot, because of what lay ahead. No, one went to the river at midday. Not in UCHE, not ever. Everyone knew the stories. The hour when the sun sat directly above was sick but feared. It was when the river goddess, Umili, rose from the depths to cleanse her waters, enraged by mortal presence. They said people who went at that time vanished. Some returned, but wrong. Eyes empty, voices stolen, minds broken. And yet here she was, forced by the woman who should have protected her. Ada's eyes burned not from the sun, but from the ache behind them. Her throat was dry, her legs shook, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. She remembered the last time she refused to obey. It had ended with her locked in the goat shed for 2 days, with nothing but rainwater dripping through a crack in the roof and stale yam. Skins the goats had half-eaten, so she walked. The trees ahead grew taller and darker. The path curved downward, into cooler air. The river wasn't far now. She could smell it, sweet, heavy, like moss and secrets. Ada paused at the final bend. The air here felt wrong, still, dead still. The wind had stopped. Even the insects had vanished. The only thing that moved was the surface of the water, rippling slowly like it breathed. Her heart thundered. She clutched the pot tighter. "I mean no harm," she whispered. "I didn't want to come. Please, please forgive me." The words dissolved into the silence like smoke in wind. She stepped forward. The river looked ordinary, blue-gray.com, shimmering faintly beneath the noon sun. But Ada knew better. She knelt at the edge, heart slamming in her chest, and dipped the pot into the water. Each drop that sloshed in sounded like a drumbeat. She held her breath. Nothing happened. No screaming wind, no rising spirit, no punishment, just silence. She waited. 1 second, 2, then she stood. The pot was full. She turned. A voice, faint, a whisper. "Ada." She spun around so fast the water nearly spilled. "Who's there?" Silence. No one. She looked at the river. Her reflection shimmered on the surface. Pale, thin, terrified. Ada's breath caught in her throat. Her feet froze. She waited, but nothing moved. Not a ripple, not a whisper. Her eyes darted left and right. Still, nothing. She couldn't stay. Gripping the pot tightly, she stepped back and began to walk. Faster now, the water sloshing dangerously. Her breath came short. Her eyes scanned every shadow. Behind her, the river watched. When Ada reached the edge of the compound, her knees nearly buckled. The pot weighed heavy, but her fear had weighed heavier. She staggered through the entrance. Ozoma sat on a stool, shelling groundnuts. She didn't even look up. "Took your sweet time," she said. Ada said nothing. She moved toward the kitchen hut and lowered the pot. Her hands were trembling. "Don't just stand there like a carved post," Ozoma snapped. "Are you deaf now?" Ada opened her mouth. "I'm sorry, Mama." Another slap, faster than lightning. Her head jerked, her cheek exploded in heat. You dare talk back at me? Ozoma barked. You think you've earned rest? Because you fetched water? Go sweep the compound. The goats have left their blessings everywhere. Ada's lips parted. But it's the hottest time of the crack. Third slap. Harder, said Sweep. Ada didn't argue again. She turned, eyes stinging, throat burning, and grabbed the broom made of dry palm fronds. The sun overhead mocked her. Dust rose as she swept. It filled her nose, her mouth, her eyes. Her fingers ached, her palms stung. But she swept, and swept, and swept. She didn't cry, she didn't scream. She just endured. Ozoma watched from the shade, her arms folded, her lips curled in cruel amusement. When you're done, she said, you'll pound yam soft, like your head. If it's hard, you'll eat it yourself while I watch. Ada didn't answer. When she finished sweeping, she stumbled to the old mortar beneath the mango tree. Her arms were weak, but she pounded anyway. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Each strike was heavier than the last. Her vision blurred. She didn't stop. When the yam was done, she brought it to Ozoma. The woman sniffed it, poked it. This one is soft, she said with a sneer. Because the devil pities you today. She pushed the plate away. Wash my clothes. I want them white like heaven's gate. Ada stared at the ground. She nodded and walked away. That night, after the chores and the pain, Ada curled up alone on the thin raffia mat inside the storage hut. She called a room. The silence pressed in like a weight. She looked at the crack in the wall where moonlight filtered through. Her thoughts drifted to a time when laughter filled this compound, when her mother was alive, when her father used to swing her into the air and call her my little sunshine. That was before everything changed, before her mother died, before her father disappeared, before Ozoma became queen of the house. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I miss you, Mama, she whispered. I'm trying to be strong, but it hurts. Every day it hurts. The wind outside moaned gently, like it heard her. She gripped the faded cloth her mother had sewn years ago and held it to her chest. Then she slept. The second time, Ozoma sent her to the river at midday. Ada didn't argue. She didn't plead, didn't flinch. She just took the clay pot and walked. Because what was the use? Disobedience earned only more pain, and survival meant submission. The sun burned hotter that day, if such a thing was possible. The air shimmered as if the village itself was sweating. Even the chickens had retreated into the shadows. But Ada, barefoot and hollow-bellied, trudged down the path without a sound. She had gone to the river twice since that first terrifying journey. Each time, she whispered her apologies. Each time, the river remained still, as if watching, waiting. Nothing had happened, but the fear never left. Today felt different, heavier, as if something were building inside her, like water rising behind a dam. By the time she reached the riverbank, her legs shook. The clay pot felt like stone in her arms. She dropped to her knees, not bothering to wipe her sweat-soaked face, and set the pot beside her. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, trembling breaths. The silence was unbearable. Please, she whispered. No response, not even the sound of leaves moving. I'm tired. She didn't even know who she was speaking to anymore. I don't want to do this again. I'm not trying to insult you. I don't have a choice. Still, nothing. And that's when the dam inside her broke. Tears came in a flood, hot, raw, shaking her entire body. She covered her face with her hands and cried the way children cry when they think no one can hear. Ugly, helpless sobs. Her voice cracked as she screamed into the emptiness. Why me? What did I do to deserve this life? You took my mother. You took my father. What do I have left? Her voice echoed against the trees and across the water. She threw a small rock into the river, then another, then both fists full of pebbles. I hate this. I hate this place. I hate everything. She dropped to the ground, breathless, broken. Then a voice, as she froze. She lifted her head, heart hammering against her ribs. There, standing where the water met the shore, was a figure, a girl, about her age, maybe a bit older, long, dark hair dripping with river water, skin that shimmered as if kissed by moonlight. Her eyes were wide and soft, with a light in them Ada had never seen before, and instead of fury, she smiled. Ada scrambled back, pushing with her heels. No, please, I didn't mean. The girl held up a hand. Don't be afraid. Her voice was like water, soft, flowing, and clear. Ada froze. The figure stepped forward, the river parting gently with each movement of her legs, or rather, her tail. Her lower body shimmered with scales that glinted faintly in the light. A mermaid, a real one. Ada's mouth hung open, her mind grasping for words. The girl stopped a few steps away. "I am Marinma," she said, "daughter of Omome, mother of this river." Ada stared, breathless. Marinma tilted her head. "You've been here many times. I've watched you cry. But today your sadness called to me. You're not angry." Ada finally managed to whisper. Marinma gave a small laugh, like music rippling over stone. "Why would I be angry, they say? I'm not supposed to be here. Not at this hour." "Yes," Marinma said, eyes twinkling, "because most people come with disrespect, with greed or arrogance. But you come with pain. The river feels pain too." Ada blinked, trying to process what she was hearing. "You're not here to punish me." "No," Marinma said simply. "I'm here to comfort you, if you'll let me." Something inside Ada cracked again, not with pain this time, but relief. Like someone had finally opened a window in a room long closed. They sat side by side on a flat rock at the edge of the river. Ada's clay pot sat forgotten beside them. She didn't ask why Marinma could sit on rocks. She didn't ask how she could exist in two worlds. She just listened. They talked about the village, about Ozoma, about the loneliness. "I thought I was cursed," Ada said quietly, "like the gods were punishing me just for being alive." "You are not cursed," Marinma replied. "You're surviving, and that makes you stronger than you know." "Why me?" "I don't know," Marinma said. "But sometimes pain is not the end of a story. Sometimes it's the beginning of something rare." Ada looked at her. "Why now? Why show yourself?" Today, Marinma's smile turned soft. "Because you finally asked for something more than forgiveness. You asked to be seen." That made Ada cry again, but this time it wasn't grief, it was release. As the shadows lengthened, Marinma rose. "I must go." "No, wait, Will, I see you again." "Yes," she said, "but it must be our secret. No one would understand. Not your stepmother, not your village. Promise me, Ada." "I promise." Marinma's smile brightened. "Good, then I will teach you our song." She leaned in and began to hum. The melody was haunting, soft, winding, like the current of a hidden stream. It rose and fell in a way that made Ada's skin tingle. "I'll hear this," Marinma said, "whenever you sing it, whether you want to talk, cry, or simply not be alone." Ada repeated it softly, then again, until the notes settled into her chest like roots in fertile soil. Marinma touched her hand. "You are not alone, Ada." Then, with a gentle flick of her tail, she slipped into the water. Her silhouette shimmered beneath the surface, then vanished. Ada sat on the same rock long after Marinma had disappeared. The river no longer felt like an enemy. It felt like a friend. She filled the clay pot, stood, and began her walk back. As she walked, she hummed the song low and soft. The melody followed her through the trees, wrapped around her like a shawl. And for the first time since her mother's death, Ada smiled. The next time Ada sang at the river, the water did not answer right away. She sat on the same flat rock, legs pulled close to her chest, gently humming the melody Marinma had taught her. The river shimmered in the sunlight, but its surface remained still. Ada's heart sank. Was she too late? Had she done something wrong? Then ripples, a soft swirl broke the surface, and from it rose the familiar glowing figure Marinma. But something was different. Her face, usually bright and joyful, looked subdued. Her eyes shimmered not with laughter, but with sorrow. Even the gentle swish of her tail felt slower. Ada stood immediately. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" Marinma smiled faintly. "No, not hurt, just changed." She floated toward the edge, stopping just beyond the reach of Ada's hand. "I came to say goodbye." The words hit Ada like a stone to the chest. "No," she whispered. "No, please don't say that." "I have to," Marinma said gently. "A male from another river has asked for my hand. My mother has given her blessing. Soon I will leave these waters. I will belong to another stream, another life." Ada's voice broke. "But what about us? You said we could always talk. You said I wasn't alone." Marinma nodded, pain flickering in her expression, and it was true. Every word. "You gave me something rare, Ada. You gave me friendship. But the lives of river daughters are not our own. Our paths are chosen before we are born." Ada fell to her knees. "It's not fair." "No, it isn't," Marinma agreed, her voice shaking. "But I will not leave you with nothing. She raised one glowing hand. Close your eyes, Ada did. A warmth spread across her chest, like sunlight through her skin. Stretch out your hands. She obeyed. Marinma placed something in her palms, light, pure, and golden, like liquid fire. It pulsed once, then sank into her skin. Ada gasped. She opened her eyes. What was that? My gift, Marinma said. A part of me, a seed of what I am. With it, you will be able to heal wounds of the body and of the heart. Your hands will comfort pain. Your touch will give peace. Ada stared at her hands, awestruck. Why me? Because you needed more than comfort. You needed power. And because I believe in you. She reached out one last time, brushing her fingers against Ada's. I'll never forget you, the girl who sang to the river. Then, with a single graceful motion, she dove beneath the surface. Gone. Ada stood frozen, hands still tingling with magic, heart breaking and glowing all at once. She didn't tell anyone. Not about the gift, not about Marinma. She couldn't. It was too big, too sacred. But 2 days later, at the village market, the moment found her. She was running an errand for Ozoma, carrying a basket of smoked fish, when a scream tore through the crowd. A mother, wailing, "Help, somebody help me. My baby, he's not breathing." Ada dropped the basket. Her feet moved before her mind did. She pushed through the circle of onlookers to find a boy no older than 2, limp in his mother's arms. His lips were turning blue. His tiny chest barely moved. The villagers stood helpless. The healer is away. Someone muttered, "We must get the priest. We don't have time." Another whispered. Ada stepped forward. "Let me try," she said. The mother looked up, eyes wide and wild with panic. You're just a child. Please." There was something in Ada's voice, steady, quiet, undeniable. The mother hesitated, then moved back, holding out the child. Ada knelt, hands trembling. She placed her palm gently on the boy's chest, closed her eyes, and hummed a song. Marinma's song. The melody filled her, steadied her breath. Her hands warmed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the boy's body jerked. He coughed. A deep, gasping breath filled his lungs. The crowd gasped. "He's breathing," the mother cried. "He's breathing again." People surged forward, muttering, exclaiming. Ada stood, dazed, overwhelmed. She didn't wait. She picked up her basket and fled the market, her heart racing faster than her feet. By nightfall, the village was buzzing. "Did you hear? She healed a dying boy with just her hands. No one's ever seen anything like it." Ada, the stepdaughter of Ozoma, that poor girl. Maybe she's a spirit child. Ozoma heard too. She said nothing at first, just watched. Ada with narrowed eyes. That night, after Ada served her dinner, Ozoma spoke. "You're getting clever," she said, chewing loudly. "Healing sick babies now. Playing priestess." Ada kept her eyes down. "I didn't ask for attention," Ozoma said, "but attention found you. Be careful. It never lasts long, especially for girls like you." She bit into a piece of yam. "Go sweep the compound." But attention did last. The next week, another boy fell from a tree and broke his leg. His family begged Ada to help. She did. The swelling faded. The bone realigned. The boy stood within an hour. Then an old woman with a fever, a farmer with a burn, a mother who hadn't slept in days. Each time, Ada healed quietly, without asking for praise. But the people noticed. They began to greet her with respect, call her Nwata Debia, the child healer. They left small gifts by her hut, yams, fruit, soap. Ozoma grew restless. She scowled more, ordered louder, slapped harder, but she watched the gifts pile up, and something else stirred behind her eyes. Fear then. One evening, Ada heard footsteps. Not Ozoma's, not the heavy stomp of laborers. Something slower warned Dot. She stepped outside the kitchen hut and froze. A man stood at the gate, dusty, thin. His eyes locked on hers, and though his hair had grayed and his shoulders had slumped, she knew that face. Papa. The word left her lips before she could stop it. The man dropped the small sack from his shoulder. Ada ran. She threw herself into his arms. He held her tight, trembling. Neither said a word. Only tears spoke between them. Ozoma returned from the farm. An hour later, she saw him. Her face barely flickered. She forced a smile. "Husband, you've returned at last." But Amadi did not answer, not with words. He looked at her, and his mouth moved, but no sound came. Not a whisper, only silence. He was mute. Ada watched him struggle. heart cracking with every failed attempt. At speech, she pulled him into the shade, cupped his face. "Let me try." She placed her hands gently against his throat, closed her eyes, hummed the song. But this time nothing stirred. No warmth, no glow, nothing. Her father's silence remained. That night, Ada sat alone under the mango tree, the same tree her father used to lift her toward, laughing. She stared at the stars. "I healed others," she whispered. "Why not him?" The wind offered no answers. She touched her hands, as if searching for the gift. It was still there, but its limits had been drawn. Even miracles had boundaries. Mornings in UCHE changed, not all at once, but slowly, like the river itself shifting direction. Where once people had averted their eyes when Ada walked by, they now offered gentle nods, smiles, sometimes even bowed heads. Mothers whispered blessings as she passed. Elders clapped softly when she helped an injured child or calmed a sick baby. In the dusty silence of her routine, Ada had become something more than a girl. She was hope. Even Ozoma noticed. She said little at first, but she watched. She watched how neighbors stopped by with extra tomatoes for the healer. How men who once ignored Ada now asked for her touch on aching joints. How the market women offered her ripe mangoes, waved away payments, whispered, "You carry light in your hands." It burned Ozoma quietly, not with fire, but with something older. Envy, power slipping, control fading. Still, at home, the cruelty never fully vanished. Ozoma's commands became less venomous, yes, but never kind. She'd bark orders in the morning, insult Ada under her breath, but now did so cautiously. The villagers had eyes. The girl, once invisible, had become sacred. Even Amadi, still mute, noticed he watched everything with quiet alertness. He'd taken to walking the edges of the family's farmland, inspecting the crops with a careful hand, his gestures commanding. He didn't speak, but he didn't need to. His presence had weight again. Sometimes he'd place a hand on Ada's shoulder, squeezing it gently. That said more than words ever could. One day, as Ada sat beneath the mango tree preparing herbs for a neighbor's feverish child, Ozoma approached her quietly, too quietly. Ada tensed. "Ada," Ozoma said, tone stiff. She did not answer. I've been thinking." Still no reply. Ozoma shifted. "I was not fair to you. Not before. Not after your mother passed." Ada crushed a leaf between her fingers slowly. "I was hurt. And your father, he was gone. I had a son to raise. Too much work. I wasn't ready." Ada looked up. "So you took it out on me?" Ozoma flinched at her tone. "I'm trying to say I'm sorry." Ada studied her dot. Something about the apology felt rehearsed, brittle, not soaked in regret, but laced with calculation. Ada's voice was quiet. "Are you sorry for what you did, or for what I've become?" Silence. Ozoma's mouth opened, closed. Then she turned and walked away. That told Ada everything she needed to know. 2 weeks later, a royal messenger arrived at the compound. He wore a red sash, a carved ivory staff in his hand. He bowed low before Amadi, then turned to Ada. "By the order of His Highness, King Ikena of UCHE, you are summoned to the royal palace," he announced. "The council wishes to meet the girl whose hands heal what others cannot." Ozoma's spoon dropped to the ground. Ada blinked. I'm just a girl." The messenger smiled. "No, you are the reason hope breathes again in this land." The royal palace wasn't golden or towering, but it was sacred, built from smooth clay and dark timber. It sat beneath towering Iroko trees, protected by carved masks and totems that glowed faintly under the sun. A courtyard of white stones stretched before the main hall. Ada arrived with Amadi. He wore clean robes. His hair was neatly braided by a neighbor. His eyes never left hers. Together, they stepped through the palace gate. The council was already gathered. Elders in flowing robes, the village healer, Nooki, stern-eyed but not unkind, and on a raised stool of polished wood, King Ikena, tall, regal, his staff resting across his lap. Ada knelt low. The king's voice was warm. "Rise, daughter of UCHE." She obeyed, her heart pounding. He studied her, then spoke. "We have watched you, heard the whispers, seen the results. When our healer was away, you stepped in. You saved lives, restored strength, brought comfort to the broken." Ada lowered her gaze. "I only did what I could, Your Majesty." "Exactly," he said. "Not what you were asked to, what you could." He turned to Nooki. The old healer stood, I feared she was a rival, Nwoki said plainly, but the truth, she's a blessing. He looked at Ada. I would be honored to work beside you, child. Ada's lips trembled. The king stood. His staff struck the floor. Let it be known, he declared, from this day forward, Ada, daughter of Amadi, shall serve as healer of Umukai. Together with Nwoki, she will tend to our people. And to honor this, a sanctuary shall be built in the village square, a place of healing open to all, rich or poor, young or old. The council murmured in approval. Then the king turned to Amadi. You have returned from silence. Though your tongue speaks not, your presence is mighty. Your daughter's deeds restore your name. Amadi bowed. His eyes glistened. Ada wept silently. Construction began within days. A large hut with 3 smaller extensions. Open windows, wide doors, benches carved from palm wood. Villagers volunteered, donated clay, bamboo, herbs, fabrics. Children sang while they worked. Elders offered blessings. Ada worked beside them, not as a queen, but as one of them. She sorted roots, crushed leaves, brewed healing oils. She learned chants from Nwoki, taught some of her own. People came and were healed still. One healing eluded her. One evening, when the sun painted the sky in blood-orange light, Ada found Amadi sitting beneath the mango tree, staring into the distance. She sat beside him. For a while, they said nothing. Then she reached for his hand. Papa, she whispered, may I try again? He nodded slowly. She placed both palms against his throat, closed her eyes, and sang. Low, steady, heartfelt. The warmth returned. Her hands glowed faintly. A breeze stirred. The tree rustled, but Amadi remained silent. No breath of sound, only his steady gaze, filled with love and quiet sadness. Ada's eyes brimmed with tears. I don't understand. Why can't I fix this one thing? He didn't answer, of course, but he squeezed her hand, and somehow, that was enough. That night, she sat in her tiny hut, staring at the stars. Her fingers tingled with the same power that had saved others, but not him, not her father. She whispered into the dark, not expecting an answer. Some wounds, maybe, aren't meant to be undone. There was no wind, no magical voice, no song, only the silence. And for once, it didn't hurt. The sun rose slowly over Umukai, bathing the village in a soft, golden hush. But that morning, the silence carried something else. Reverence that the new, healing sanctuary stood tall in the village square, its fresh clay walls still faintly warm from the builder's hands. Curtains of palm fiber framed the windows. Intricate carvings danced across the entrance. A child holding leaves, a river flowing into open hands, a single star above a girl's head. At the heart of it all, Ada stood in white. She had never worn white before, not since her mother's funeral. But today wasn't about loss, it was about becoming. The square was full. People had gathered from neighboring villages. They came carrying baskets of fruit, yam, woven cloths, chickens, all for her, not because she had demanded it, but because they believed. The drums started, steady, deep. The village healer, Nwoki, stepped forward and raised his staff. Today, he announced, we do not crown a ruler, we do not bless a warrior. We honor something rarer, a girl who gave life where death had already stretched its hand. He turned toward her. She did not seek power. She did not demand respect. She earned it by serving quietly, healing humbly, and walking where no one dared walk. Ada stepped forward. She didn't speak. She simply bowed her head. The drums quickened. The people clapped, cheered, sang. And just like that, the sanctuary was opened. From that day forward, Ada was never alone. People came at dawn, at dusk, under moonlight, some with sick babies, others with aching bones, many with heartbreaks, too deep to name. She healed what she could, and when healing wasn't possible, she stayed. She held their hands, sang them Marina's melody, let them weep. That too was healing. She worked side by side with Nwoki. He taught her how to mix roots she'd never seen. She taught him how to listen when there were no words. They shared silence like water, both a mirror and a bomb. Meanwhile, at home, things changed. Ozoma tried to pretend at first, barking out orders half-heartedly, muttering curses under her breath, but no one listened anymore. Even her friends in the village now greeted Ada with bows and praises, and Ozoma with cold glances or nothing at all. The market women whispered, she used to beat the girl, and now that same girl heals our children. Shame has a way of turning proud necks down. Ozoma shrank out, her voice quieted, her footsteps softened. She stayed indoors more often, clutching her son to her side, as if afraid he too would grow wings and leave. Once she tried to offer Ada a bowl of hot porridge. Without saying a word, Ada accepted it politely and said nothing in return. Amadi, though silent, flourished in his own way. He reclaimed his lands, worked them with steady hands, organized the laborers with simple gestures, a nod, a raised brow, a tap on the ground. The crops grew again, the goats grew fat, the trees bloomed, but, more importantly, he was present. Every night he sat near the fire. Every morning he greeted Ada with a gentle touch to the shoulder. Once, he carved a small flute out of wood and left it on her mat. No note, no explanation, just the gift. She played it that night, under the stars. He listened from the doorway. It was enough. One evening, after a long day tending to the sick, Ada found herself alone beneath the mango tree. The air was thick with the scent of rain. Lightning danced at the edges of the sky, but no storm came. She looked at her hands. They no longer glowed when she used them, not visibly, anyway, but the warmth remained, the sense of purpose, the invisible thread that connected her to something larger than herself. She thought of Marinma, her voice, her laughter, her gift. Was she happy now, wherever she was? Ada hoped so. She picked up the flute her father had made, pressed it to her lips, and played, not the old market songs, not even the lullabies her mother once sang. She played the river's song, soft, winding, alive, a melody not of sadness, but of memory, of gratitude. That same week, a traveler from a faraway village arrived, sick with a disease that had baffled his people. Ada treated him for days, feeding him herbs, placing her hands on his chest each morning, singing as he slept. He healed. The news spread. Another week, a group of women came carrying a girl too weak to speak. Her parents had given up, but Ada, DIDN, single quotes too, stayed by her side for 7 nights. On the 8th morning, the girl opened her eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Ada smiled and kissed her forehead. One night, as she swept the floor of the sanctuary, a soft cough came from the doorway. She turned. Ozoma, not in rags, not in grandeur, just plain quiet. "I've wronged you," she said. Her voice cracked. "I've wronged your mother's memory, wronged your father, wronged this village." Ada didn't speak. Ozoma looked down. "I know I don't deserve mercy, but I offer what little shame I still carry." Ada stood still for a long time. Then, softly, "I don't hate you." Ozoma looked up, startled. "I never hated you," Ada continued, "but I stopped needing you." She stepped closer, her voice steady. "Everything you did, it broke me. But the river made me whole again. You tried to bury me, and it led me to my gift. So thank you." Then she turned and walked back inside. Ozoma remained in the doorway a long while. Then she too turned and walked away. The healing sanctuary thrived. It became more than a place of medicine. It became a place of storytelling, of comfort, of music, of rebirth. Even when Nwoki grew too old to walk without help, he still came. He sat in the back, humming to himself, while Ada worked. And whenever people asked her how she learned, or who gave her the gift, she simply said, "I listened to the river." Some believed, some doubted, but all were healed. One day, a young boy came running to the sanctuary, breathless. "The king," he panted. "The king Wushisto, see you." Ada washed her hands and followed. When she entered the palace, King Ik smiled. "You have become a legend," he said. Ada bowed. "I am only a girl. You are the seed of something greater." He stood and motioned to the council. "We are naming you the guardian of health. You will train others, build more sanctuaries, teach not just healing, but hope." Ada's heart trembled. "But I still have much to learn." "As do we all," the king replied. "But the river chose you for a reason." And so Ada's journey widened. She trained young girls and boys. She traveled to nearby villages. She helped start new sanctuaries. And still, she came home each week to sit beneath the mango tree with her father and play the flute. He never spoke, but his silence no longer felt like absence. It felt like presence, in its purest form. Some nights, Ada would walk to the riverbank and sit alone. She would dip her feet in the water, close her eyes, and sing. Not always for a response, but just to remember, to honor. And sometimes, just sometimes, the surface would ripple, and a soft voice would rise in her memory. are not alone, Ada, and she would smile. She hadn't become powerful out of vengeance. She had become strong because she refused to let the pain define her, because she chose love over rage, because even when the world tried to silence her, she listened to the song inside herself and answered, "This is not the end, it is the silence before the next melody." If you watched until the end, comment the word Riverlight, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with friends and family.